You're listening to Zen and the Art of Endurance, your podcast for getting great at going long.
Well, hey there, all you endurance freaks and geeks, and welcome to another episode of Zen and the Art of Endurance. Today we have part 2 with our interview with one of the best professional racers in North American cycling, Chase Wark. And last week's interview were some more general questions, and this interview we get into the specifics, into the details with tips and tricks of how he goes so fast, stuff that a lot of us could use ourselves. For example, we cover Aero socks, calf sleeves. He talks about wearing a base layer under his jersey with the tripwire fabric at the shoulders and upper arms. How far does he go with shaving his legs and his arms and maybe even his hands? Does he wear gloves? Because it's actually faster to not wear gloves. We talk about glucose monitoring, the continuous glucose monitors. And actually what he's looking for is lactate monitors. What are some of his longest rides? What does he do for indoor training? How does he ride Zwift? How much do road racing tactics happen in gravel racing? Some of his gear, his pedals, are actually an interesting choice. We talk about camelback gait. One, the aerodynamics of a camelback versus USWE. And then two, the crash that we have on video of what happened at Valley of Tears whenever he was trying to swing his arm through his hydration pack and then the strap broke at the same time that his bike, the front end kind of wiped out a little bit, and then Keegan Swinson, the number 1 cyclist in North America, was right behind him, and then they ended up crashing into each other. They actually became friends over the rest of the race, if they weren't already, and Keegan Swinson offered Chase water along the race to help him out because Chase's camelback was broken, and how Chase did the second half of the race with no hydration except for what Keegan offered him and no fuel, and still got second place. And right at the beginning, I asked him, what's his breaking point, man? How far are you willing to go to be aero or have lower rolling resistance? Would you actually wear a time trial helmet in a gravel race? And I think you're going to enjoy the answer. All right, so that's our interview coming up in a few minutes. And like you heard at the very beginning of the show, the name change to Zen and the Art of Endurance has been successful so far. The podcast name has changed. I bought ZenEndurance.net, so we'll have a website migration edition from ZenTriathlon.com. Somebody owns ZenEndurance.com and won't give it up. I've tried. Some holding company in China. If anybody out there can figure out how to get that and let me have it for a price, let me know. There's a few other loose ends I got to tie up. Like, I don't know yet if I've gotten the recording changed at the beginning where the voice says, welcome, or you are listening to Zen and the Art of Triathlon. We got to get that switched to Zen and the Art of Endurance. I already miss Zen and the Art of the Triathlon as a name, so it'll always be in our hearts. And there's a lot of stuff that'll still refer to it forever. The Zen Tri training log. Zen Tri is such a catchy name. But I got some emails from people that said that it was a really smart decision and they're really enjoying it. Because now we can cover everything without feeling like have to explain that everything is tied back to triathlon or multisport or vice versa. And speaking of that, let's do a little bit of triathlon news. Oceanside 70.3 is going to be this weekend, and it is a very important race in the Ironman circuit. The big hitters really show up to this race. The last I heard, there's over 40 pro women in the race. And one of them that might be the favorite is Taylor Knibb. And I believe she's on track to be in the Olympics. And then another one of my favorites is Lauren Brandon, who's been a guest on this show. And the thing about Lauren is that she is a former collegiate, I think, Division I swimmer. And her swim technique is just something to behold. I'll never forget watching her race. I believe it was Chattanooga full Ironman, and she was easily off the front in the swim and then rolled over on her back and did backstroke to see where the competition was behind her. And the smoothness of that rollover was just unbelievable. And she went almost as fast doing backstroke as she was doing freestyle. Her backstroke is probably faster than 99% of the field's freestyle. It was so beautiful to watch. And I was like, wow, this is so amazing. After that, I asked if she could be on the show, and we talked at length about her swimming background. Anyway, she's so nice and such an awesome person that we're an eternal fan of Lauren Brandon here on Zen and the Art of Endurance. So there's a mix of a lot of other female pros that you've heard of, and some that you haven't, because there's so many of them. And then on the men's pro side, the biggest names that are going to be there is Patrick Lang, who won Kona a few years ago. I can't remember what year he won. Let's see if I can get this to pop up. He's won twice, 2017 and 2018. Broke the record both times at Kona. So he's going to be there. And then the other one is Lionel Sanders is going to be there. And Lionel Sanders has a great history at Oceanside. And it's a 70.3. And that seems to be Lionel's perfect distance. And I just watched a video that he put out, that he and Talbot Cox put out, like within the past couple of days. And it's really funny. Lionel Sanders is claiming that he's over the hill, and he's never going to be as fast as he was ever again because he's 36 years old. And basically a lot of feeling sorry for himself. And one thing that is so fun about watching Lionel Sanders is he is the heart and soul and mind of an age group triathlete stuck in the body of a professional triathlete. The guy has got so much power and so much talent. And then, like the rest of us, he's human and makes decisions that afterwards, it seems right at the time, and he like fully commits to whatever his decision is. And then a few months later, a lot of times, I don't know, yeah, I'd say months later. I was about to say days later, but like months later, he's like 180 degrees, like switch, he's going to do this and do that. And then he sounds so confident about the very next thing that he's doing. And then he'll change his mind. So he's like all over the place. And I'm not being critical of that. It is so fun to watch. And he's very successful and doing very well for himself as a pro triathlete, because he puts it all out there on YouTube so that we can see what is going through the mind of a pro. And I bet you that a lot of them are like this, and he's one that actually puts it out there. And so age groupers have always been super fans of Lionel Sanders. And for those that don't know, I actually met Lionel Sanders at Ironman Texas. I was on a panel with him doing interviews and broadcasting live a couple days or a day before the race. And I was being interviewed for race radio, and then Lionel Sanders was next. And he sat down with me and we talked a little bit while we were both being interviewed, and then I needed to leave, so I shook his hand and left. And he was just becoming a thing at that time. And he was super nice, and I'll always be a fan of Lionel Sanders. When he does retire from full-on pro racing and gets into coaching, he is going to be jam-packed with athletes that are so inspired by him. So let's see how Lionel does and how washed up he really is. I think he's going to do really great. And he's not washed up whatsoever. All right, jumping back in here. Well, I thought I would get the show out before they ran Oceanside 70.3. But it turns out they did it on Saturday. I thought for some reason it'd be on a Sunday. But Lionel Sanders won, and so did Taylor Knibb. And next episode, we'll cover a little bit of the details. Why? What were the strategies? What worked out? And I'm not sure about Taylor just yet, but I know that Lionel Sanders, when he finished, because I saw this video of him crossing the finish line, Sam Long, who got second, wasn't even in sight. Lionel Sanders had time to walk across the finish line, and you could tell it was really emotional because he's got a lot of self-doubt all the time, and pick up his baby, turn around, pick up his baby gently and slowly, and turn around and look down the finishing chute, and there isn't anybody. And that's when you can tell there's domination going on. And especially in a half Ironman, people usually don't win those with a lot of margin, but Lionel Sanders did. So, all right, spring and summer Ironman season is here. And also, I forgot to mention, it dawned on me, Paris-Roubaix is Sunday, and we'll have some coverage of that on the next episode as well. The craziest, hardest bike race, one-day bike race in the world, where they're always experimenting with crazy technologies to try to deal with the cobblestones that are just horrific. A lot of stuff that gets invented either in gravel gets turned over into road cycling, Paris-Roubaix, or vice versa. The Roubaix generates technology changes that gets turned over into gravel cycling, long distance cycling. And the thing is the tire widths just keep expanding because they have found that is the fastest, cheapest, easiest way to get in suspension to deal with those stones. All right, back to the show. And then on the swimming front, Form Goggles just updated their goggles with a head-up display built into the lens that gives you all kinds of information right in front of your eyes so you don't have to look at your watch anymore. They've been out for a few years. And actually, Lionel Sanders is using them for about a year or so and then saying that these things really do work. That's what got me to buy a pair. They just came out with version 2.0. I have a friend that works with them on beta testing, and he was telling me this was coming, where it's got heart rate built into the strap. So it's an optical heart rate sensor. And he showed me on his workout after swimming with him one day last week, where it overlays the heart rate into your pace graph, your speed graph. And it is really, really cool. So along with putting the heart rate built right into the goggles now, instead of having to buy a separate piece to do it, they've also built in a compass reading that shows you your heading, right? And what you do is you swim open water, and they also track distance open water, by the way. Like if your watch has GPS in it, it'll talk to your watch and then tell you how far you swim. So that's old news. What's new news is with this compass bearing, you look up in sight on the horizon, something on the horizon, something tall, like a radio tower or a building, whatever, a hilltop, whatever you're sighting on, and you get the bearing on that. And let's say that it's at 210 degrees. Well, now when you put your head down and swim, the bearing will still show on your goggles, inside your goggles where you can see it, and you can keep swimming towards 210 degrees. And if you start veering off, it'll tell you that you're swimming now at 209, 208, 207 degrees. You're swimming to the left. You need to correct to the right to get back on the 210 degrees again. And kind of like a car, it'll warn you on occasion that you need to raise your head so it can get another fix, or just so that you need to sight again. And it's a lot like, driving with a car, where it's like, hey, put your hands back on the wheel, don't go too long without looking. I personally would probably be interested in turning that off. I know I'm going to sight, so I don't want that warning. If there's a reason I haven't sighted in 30 or 40 seconds, then I don't need to be warned. That'd be cool if I would be able to turn that off. But anyway, these goggles are just amazing, and I've been using them for almost a year. And the coolest thing for me is I've got them set up to display my current yardage, how far I've swam and the amount of time that I've been swimming, and then also my average pace, and then also the pace of my last 25 yards or my last length, so that when I do a flip turn, it'll briefly show how fast was that last length. So I can tell if I'm going faster or slower than my average. And what I do is I kind of mess with my technique, and I do long sets, and I mess with my technique, and I'll add in a little bit more glide or a little less kick or more of one of those, a little bit less head rotation, a little more high elbow, just experiment with different things, and then find out, is that actually, whoa, that's faster than my average. So I need to keep doing that. And what I'm dying for is to have heart rate mixed in, and then I can see the holy grail is what stroke technique is fast and doesn't raise my heart rate. I got way faster on a treadmill by doing that, by running by heart rate and then changing my form on the treadmill and seeing what form at the exact same speed on the treadmill lowered my heart rate by a beat or two. And then when that happened, then I would raise the speed by 1/10 of a mile per hour on the treadmill, and my heart rate would climb back up to where it was. But I did this over months and months and improved my running form and figured out how to run really fast at a low heart rate by watching my heart rate while I was on like a metronome known speed, and could experiment and see actually what was faster but easier. And one of my coaching clients was swimming in the lane next to me, and she had never seen these goggles, and I showed them to her, and she was blown away. She's like, oh my God, I got to get a pair of those. Send me a link. Which reminds me, if you go and get a pair of these goggles, make sure you give a shout out to FormSwim and let them know that you got them, at least partially or wholly, because of listening to Zen and the Art of Endurance and Zen and the Art of Triathlon because I am trying to get a sponsorship with them, but it's difficult to get on a company's radar unless other people give you props. And the last piece of endurance news is Ben Delaney, who is a fantastic YouTube creator, put out a video where he was at a wind tunnel. I believe the one in North Carolina or South Carolina. I'm not sure which Carolina it's in, but he was at the wind tunnel with the owner of Silca, and Silca makes the finest bicycle equipment. And the owner of Silca used to work with Zip and a bunch of other pro teams and equipment makers and really knows his stuff. And yeah, they're in the wind tunnel testing out Ben Delaney, but in the background, you can see Dylan Johnson holding position in the wind tunnel. And it's actually quite comical to look at because he's having to stand there or sit there on the bike like a statue while they're gathering data. The whole time that the interview between these other two is going on in the foreground, he's in the background. It's really funny. You got to watch it. And Dylan Johnson is the other major competitor that's hugely into marginal gains, just like Chase, who's our interview today. And those two actually talk to each other, I found out. And in this YouTube video by Ben Delaney, he talks at length with the owner of Silca about what marginal gains they're finding on the bike. It's specifically gravel, but it's generally cycling, and it's fascinating. They go over the numbers, the difference in watts it takes at different bike positions, and specifically narrow handlebars versus wider handlebars, and then deep dish wheels versus shallow wheels. And the coolest part of the interview is they mention that they just found out half an hour before that the Lauf suspension fork, the LAUF suspension fork, the same brand bike and fork that Chase is riding, the suspension version of the fork is actually faster than the rigid version of the fork. And that's counterintuitive because the suspension adds all this mess. But the mess is behind, it's trailing behind the leading edge of the fork. So the leading edge is sleek, and then the suspension part is all behind, and possibly what's happening is it's filling in the gap behind the leading edge, and then that somehow smooths the airflow and causes less not cavitation, but less turbulence. And you wouldn't think it. You think it would be slower, but it's not. It was something on the order of 5 watts faster to ride a suspension fork than not. And then there's some other interesting numbers that I found out that I also talk about more after the interview. And some other wind tunnel testing that other people did, they found that the difference between riding upright on the hoods and riding on a all-out time trial bike is about 45 minutes, I think, over the period of an Ironman at like an average speed. So you're giving up 45 minutes. But then what was really interesting was clip-on Aero bars on a road bike that was optimized pretty good for Aero, but it's still a road bike with clip-on Aero bars was, in this one test, actually faster, which means it's within an error of margin. So it's probably about exactly as fast as a full-on triathlon time trial bike, but that's just kind of like a decent triathlon bike, with like cables and hoses hanging off, and maybe not like the most Aero billion-dollar triathlon bike. It was just as fast, which really blew people's minds. Which when we turn the page back and look at gravel, you could essentially be riding the equivalent of a half-decent triathlon bike out there while everybody else is riding upright road bikes if you just put on clip-on bars, get your position cleaned up, and put on a set of Aero rims. And I thought that was really, really cool. All right, let's go ahead and get down to the meat of the show. I am so excited to bring you the second half of Chase Wark. And don't forget that you can get your own coaching through yours truly. Just send an email to texaphonia@gmail.com with coaching in the subject. And also, if you're interested in advertising or sponsoring the show, go to patreon.com/zentry and hit us up. All right, let's join back in with Chase, and here we go. And how many watts do you think you save, like doing the Aero position? And do you do any other Aero stuff too? Like, I got a question for you. What's your breaking point? Would you wear like a time trial full teardrop helmet, or have you?
If it was cool enough, And if like, so I'm sponsored by Lazer for helmets.
Yeah.
If they gave me a time trial helmet, I think I would run it. Yeah. There's not really a limit for me. I mean,
I tell you, I've seen somebody at my son's collegiate mountain bike races at a time trial, mountain bike time trial. Somebody wore a time trial helmet.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they got second place or first place too. And it was a flat time trial and they averaged, probably 20 miles an hour. So I'm like, yeah. And it was cold. And I was like, yeah, that probably gave him 5 seconds right there.
Yeah.
Or a real short time trial, really short time trial. Yeah. Okay. So you would wear one if you.
Yeah. For me, like, yeah, I'd wear a helmet. I mean, like, it's right here. This is like an Aero base layer that I am testing now.
Yeah. So what he's showing is he's got the base layer that you wear under a kit. Is that the one you wear under a kit that's got the ribbed shoulders on it? The tripwire for the shoulder?
Yeah, so it's made, so I have Donkey Label. Their jerseys are really smooth. So like a Aero base layer only works with smooth arms. So ordered one just to test it out, and today was my first day testing it out. And I got a test. It was pretty cool today. It was like 60 degrees on my ride. So I got to test it in like 90-degree heat. And I have a core body. Triathletes probably know what this is because I have a core body temp sensor that I'll have to do some testing with and without the base layer to see how my core body, if there's a difference with or without the Aero base layer. And then
Aero socks? You got the Aero socks?
Yeah, I actually want to buy a pair of calf sleeves.
Yeah.
Not even just the socks. Like, I feel like socks are pretty standard nowadays. If you're not, it's like waxing a chain. If you're not waxing a chain, you're just putting yourself behind. Like, you might as well just drag your brakes as well.
I wore calf sleeves during that race because I have them left over from a long time ago and it was cold. So I was like, I don't want to wear leggings, like full leggings.
Yeah.
So calf sleeves, all you're leaving at that point bare into the cold wind is just your knees, if with cycling shorts and calf sleeves. Yeah. And they were great. I felt great with them.
Yeah. My biggest dilemma is like finding the fastest calf sleeves. And I think I got it figured out, but
Okay.
Just gotta order them now.
Let's see. Do you know that wearing gloves is actually un-aero? Would you go, if it's warm enough, would you go no gloves or do you wear gloves every ride?
Yeah, no gloves, and I shave my hands and my arms.
All right, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Like I have these like Aero gloves.
Yeah, there's Aero gloves. Yeah.
I think they're less Aero than regular gloves because they like fold up where like my hand creases.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I just wear them on training rides to protect my hands. But like during a race, I don't think, I'd rather wear no gloves. Also, I think it helps with cooling wearing no gloves. So
it's true. You're right. It does. If it's humid, I learned that. I used to have a sweat. I was on some kind of medication for a while that made me sweat too much. And so hydration and staying cool was as critical as possible. I'm not on it anymore. And one trick I picked up on was not wearing gloves. So I did an A/B test. I went riding with them and then without, and I could totally tell the difference. I was way cooler without gloves than because they're right out in front of you and it's all that surface area. I'm holding up my hands for people that can't see.
Yeah.
It's so much surface area for cooling. Yeah.
Yeah. And your hands and feet are like, I don't know the exact science behind it, but I think the hands and feet are where you can get the most cooling benefit from.
Yeah. So, what about that blood? What's the blood sugar sensor?
Glucose monitor.
Glucose monitoring, yeah. In Europe, that's way less expensive than it is here. So
all of them are subscription based that I found for like an athlete. I guess I could like try to find one for someone who's diabetic.
Yeah.
But everything that I found is subscription based, which I think is dumb. Like you buy the machine like a Whoop. Like why do I have to pay a subscription for that? Like just give me let me buy the product and use it. I don't use that. I don't think there's too much benefit there from like what I've heard. I would like to use a continuous lactate monitor when they come out.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think that
I
would
see that.
be beneficial for training.
Training. Yeah. The
Um,
Norwegian method stuff. Yeah.
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 And then,
I think most
yeah,
gravel
like,
races aren't really long enough. Like an Ironman, I could see like an age grouper that's doing a really long Ironman, or something you're getting into really long stuff, then monitoring your glucose. But most of your gravel races, you guys are finishing in 5 hours, something like that, 6 hours.
yeah.
It's the Unbound, if it's a long day or Unbound XL, then you could start getting into watching your blood sugar to make sure you're not crashing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think just like over time training that, and I think most pros now are doing 5, 6, 7 hour rides for one of their longer training days. So
Yeah.
like just making sure you don't crash on the 7 hour ride and you can take in 120, 130 grams of carbs per hour. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So let's
don't
talk about
think.
that. What's your go-to long ride? What's your favorite ride? And do you ride Zwift or what's your indoor training? And if you do that, like what's your favorite routes? And then, yeah, what do you do for fueling?
Yeah, so my favorite like long bike workout would be just like a 6 to 7 hour. Actually, my favorite ride in general is we have these like ATV trails in Winona.
Uh,
I don't know if I'm supposed to ride them or not. And I maybe am a bad influence and have younger people that I coach join me sometimes, but we'll go out and we'll ride gravel, then we'll ride the ATV trails,
uh,
ride more gravel, ride more ATV trails. Some of the ATV trails I know you can actually ride on a mountain bike
yeah.
legally. And just like practicing fueling that whole entire time and making sure like,
Yeah.
okay, you're about to hit the trails and maybe you're not going to be able to drink for 20 minutes. So, you got to remind yourself to taking carbs before so you're not behind. And I guess and then if there could be, so in the Midwest, specifically like Minnesota and Wisconsin, there's a gas station called Quick Trip.
Uh-huh.
And like one stop there, 4 to 5 hours in to get they have strawberry Mountain Dew and lemonade, and I'll
Yeah.
mix them in a cup, and
Uh,
I'll get like 22 ounces of that. And they have donuts that are better than Krispy Kreme donuts, are very similar. So, and I'll have one of those like as a treat, and then finish the ride.
so,
But then
but
if I had to,
oh, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt.
I was gonna say, if I had to do like a workout that's not just like go ride your bike and have fun with friends, it would be uh I've only done it here because there's actual like long 20+ minute climbs, but it would be like unstructured sweet spot, or I call them fartleks, and it's just do your workout, your sweet spot workout, like whenever you're going up the hill, ride at sweet spot. If you're
Right.
on a flat or downhill, just ride at like zone 2, and then cap your once you hit 90 minutes or 2 hours of sweet spot riding, then like you're done. Now just ride zone 2
Mm.
home. So that's been a super fun ride to do because I can like warm up for an hour and then I hit a 25-minute climb, and I
Yeah.
do that, and then it's like downhill or flat for like another 40 minutes, and then there's like an out and back road out to one of the lakes here, and there's like probably an hour of climbing over the whole thing that like you can add a whole bunch of sweet spot. And
Yeah.
also doing those workouts like get you pretty good Strava segments on the out and back
Yeah.
loop. So I've like gone faster than Brandon McNulty on some of the out and backs.
Oh,
But
cool.
obviously he's just riding at like unstructured. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's yeah.
Yeah, I have a theory that, like Scandinavians, the whole thing with fartlek, which is and apparently the Finnish and the Norwegians and whatever were the fastest runners in the world until the Ethiopians started showing up at the Olympics for like marathon and stuff. And also when those Scandinavian countries were poor and people had to run everywhere or cross country ski everywhere. And then when their economy got a whole lot better, the coaches or somebody said, well, that's the end of that. Because you need to be poor enough to be skinny enough and also run everywhere to like be low weight enough to be a world-class runner. And so
Yeah.
these Ethiopians and Kenyans, you just watch video footage of them. And like I watched they're interviewing somebody in a Kenyan village, and this kid goes bouncing behind the guy, like running, and he's been running his whole life, and he weighs almost nothing. He's healthy, but he's just skinny and like just bouncing behind him like a rabbit, and they run to the next
Oh yeah.
they run all over the place. But the whole thing with cross country skiing, I think, which has been a Nordic sport for hundreds of years, or it's just been a way to get around. It's
Mhm.
a sport. And I think in their culture, it's go easy on the downhills and the flats and then work the uphills. And that's one reason that's a tagline whenever I wrap up my podcast. I say work the uphills and cruise the downhills.
Mm.
And because then you get with their rolling or mountainous terrain, that's just what's built in. And they know they've been doing this for hundreds of years. And they know to put in effort when you go sweet spot, basically, when you go uphill, because you got to, or else you're going to slide backwards.
Yeah.
And on the flats and the downhills, you can kind of half coast, And then that ends up being like that perfect polarized kind of like, 20% of your time to 50%, 30%, depending on if you're a pro or not. Like how much of your time are you actually going kind of hard? Ends up being, if you live in rolling terrain, it ends up being about the amount of time you're going uphill.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. Okay. So then do you ride Zwift indoors or what do you ride indoors?
Yeah. So since I've gotten to Arizona, I haven't done too much Zwift
Mhm.
till January and February. Not too much Zwift. There's a couple
Yeah.
like 5, 6 hour rides that I did on Zwift. Or I do all of my recovery rides on Zwift because it's really easy to control your power output and there's no traffic. But yeah, so when I'm in Minnesota, so in like December, I probably did 80 to 90% of my training on Zwift.
Mhm.
And that was like my wife and I will share the same Zwift account actually. So she only rides a couple times, but it was like a 90-hour month. So I probably had 60 to 70 hours of Zwift in December. And what I do, I just pick Tempest Fungit for my route.
Yeah.
And I kind of just joke with myself that like I accumulate all these flat fake miles. And then I don't care how many miles I ride in a week.
Yeah.
I go by time.
Yeah.
But then Zwift is this like just micro screen in like my top right corner on my laptop. And usually I'm watching YouTube videos or working on coaching stuff or texting people, things to take my mind off of riding. And I'll use ergo mode. So unless I'm doing intervals, then I'll
Yeah.
actually pay attention to the Zwift. But yeah, usually it's lots of YouTube or yeah. When I can't do podcasts on the trainer, I just find that too like listening to podcasts. It's a little too challenging. But when I go
I
outside,
used to. And then ever since I figured out how to do YouTube as a picture in picture, like a floating thing, then
yeah.
I actually watch bike racing. And then sometimes I'll find myself, even though I'm riding the Zwift course, that I'm trying to keep up. That happened yesterday morning. I was watching Mid-South,
Uh,
the last 30, somebody filmed Payson McElveen
yeah.
as a video of the last 30 minutes, which I guess we should wrap up with that. And I was like trying to keep up. I found myself trying to like stay with the pack.
Uh,
And I'm like, dude, you're not even riding that. You're like on Zwift, like you're riding a completely different terrain. So what do you think about, oh, have you ridden the coastal route in Zwift yet? Have you gotten a chance? That's kind of new, so maybe not. They add a
uh,
whole section of road that's just rolling for like an hour.
the sugar cookie route.
No, I don't think so. Maybe. I don't know. But it goes along a coastline and it's got
Uh,
Bigfoot and stuff
I
like that on it. I don't think you've ridden it.
uh, I
It's
know
pretty
there's a
bad.
new sugar cookie route. For me I don't really look at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then I had a thought that gravel biking seems to me to be, especially after watching that video yesterday morning, where it was road bike tactics, right? It's like, it seems to me that gravel racing is road bike racing, but because it's gravel roads, you can't allow support vehicles on the road, like following, like you would with a
Mhm.
normal, like with the World Tour, where they have all the team cars following everybody. If somebody has a problem, you can just throw them another bike, right? Or constantly be feeding them bottles. Because gravel is so remote and then it's dusty and the roads are narrow. Just like when they do Paris Roubaix, there's no team cars allowed like on the cobble sections per se. They can't get through there, right? So that's what gravel racing is like. So it ends up being these basically a long survival ride, kind of like ultra marathon running, where there's the aid stations are really spread out really, really far. And
Yeah.
you kind of have to support yourself, which is kind of cool because it's kind of like, can I just survive this thing, which attracts a lot of people. It's a lot of I come back from a gravel race and I don't tell people what place I got because I'm not competitive like that. I'm not good enough to be that. But I tell people the distance that I went and like how long it took. And then people are like,
Yeah.
crap, like, right. So gravel racing has that kind of like Ironman. It's the same thing. People don't ask what place you got.
Yeah.
Unless you won or something, it doesn't really matter what place you got. It's just the fact that you did it. And so, Valley of Tears, 115 miles off road with what, like 4 aid stations? That's it, maybe? Was it 3 aid stations? Four?
Yeah.
And
Sure.
yeah, and then, but watching it Mid-South, where like people need to go check this out, Payson McElvin's video of the last 30 minutes, because he talks in detail about the tactics that are going on, right? With like people yelling at each other, like, hey, you need to take a pull. You're not taking enough of a pull, and then working together to bridge up to a breakaway and then trying to keep with the pack, like in tight turns. And it crossed my mind that somebody like that's got like it's a mix of needing mountain bike skills. So people that have a mountain bike background have no fear at all on gravel. Gravel is so easy if you come from mountain biking, right? But then you also need to be really successful. You need to have like a road racing background. Like you were saying, you did road in college, right? And
Mhm.
so the tactics and skills and kind of what's going on about how to ride in a pack and how to. I didn't watch it yet, but I saw a link to a video that was like 30 ways or 30 tricks to break away from the pack. Like at the end of the
Okay.
race, like things that you can.
Yeah.
And in Payson's video, he was saying that whoever was it the guy that won the race? Who won Mid-South?
Toby or Torbjorn.
Yeah, was it him? He was like, he was behind him, and then he said that the other guy was like, "Oh, I'm tired. You need to take the lead." And then when they bridged up to the group, that when two groups coalesce, that there's a lot of times like the pace backs off just
Yeah.
naturally as two groups come together. And then that guy basically was faking it that he was tired, and then just rocketed off the front and got away from the group before the rest of the group could catch up.
Then.
Yeah. So do you think your road background like helps you a lot with this, or how much have you had to do that, like with road tactics?
Yeah, I think the road background helps a lot. Actually, I coached someone who was in the lead group, and he's a
Uh-huh.
mountain biker, and he raced like a complete idiot and was on the front probably 50% of the whole race, I feel like.
Yeah.
I think he had the legs to podium or win if he would have raced smart. So actually, he's doing road racing now for his college team. So I'm excited for him to
Yeah.
learn the tactics once he upgrades because he
Yeah.
was a cat C, and like this past weekend he's like, yeah, I led the whole last lap and then I sprinted and won. I'm like, dude, that's not smart. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
Trade off
But
with
like,
people. Yeah.
yeah, he's gonna learn hopefully. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think being a roadie really helps. But I also think the group was so big at Mid South that there's just gonna be non there's not they're not gonna cooperate as well. So actually when I was with
Yeah.
Keegan, it was like, okay, we just gotta keep on the pace because at some point someone's gonna stop taking a turn and they're gonna slow down. So like it's a small group of three, four, five, six, seven, eight, usually the limit
Mhm.
where everyone's taking even turns. That's kind of how old school gravel was. Like there wasn't 20 elite racers. There was 5 or 6 pros. So they would just have a hammer fest or just rotate through. But now that gravel's probably the most popular form of elite bike racing in the US right now. Yeah, you have 20 people who could win the race, and tactics are now coming into that. So, and
Yeah.
I think, yeah, the mountain bike skills, like if you can have the knowledge of a road racer, but the handling skills of a mountain biker, I think that's the perfect combination.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, Yeah, I agree. My son just started doing road racing, and if I was kind of against it at first, because you can wreck harder on the road and whatever. But then after, yeah, kind of watching that video of how the tactics at the front were they were just road tactics. It was all road tactics.
Yeah.
And Payson, having done enough road, he was commentating on it, like how it was, and I was like, yeah, he knew exactly what was happening around him in a way that, because I don't do road racing like that. I don't do, non-draft or yeah, draft legal road racing so much that I was like, wow, the way he was describing it, he was highlighting stuff that I had never thought of. And like that thing where like two groups come together, there's like a slack and then
Yeah.
and I was like, there's got to be a million things that people with a road background know, about what to do. So then my son he's going to race road again 2 weeks from now. And I'm like, you know what? I think it's actually going to help him with his gravel racing a bunch to get some road racing in.
Yeah, it also helps a lot with like positioning, or at least crits do, because in a crit you're always fighting for position. And at the start of these gravel races, you have, well, a decent amount of them. Some are getting more pros or separated from the amateurs, but like Mid South, there was, the 50-year-old master who
Mhm.
just wanted to hang on to the front, and the pro who's like fighting for wheels. And it's easy to bump that 50-year-old out of position if you know how to do it correctly from crit racing. And
Yeah, yeah,
even within the pros, it's like some of the pros, they can position themselves just because they have good legs and they can burn a match or two right
yeah,
at the beginning. But if, like, for me, I bet if you look at like my average power at the start, it was probably pretty low in that rollout.
yeah.
And I was probably top 10 wheels on the first turn. Or even at like Valley of the Tears, I
Yeah.
was 4 to 5 rows back at the start, and
Huh?
then I quickly made my way to the front. And it's easy to, you kind of just, it's called the washing machine effect, and like you just learn how to always stay at the front of the group and not get caught in this
Yeah.
washing machine of moving back and then wasting energy and having to move up. And
Oh,
yeah.
cool. Okay. Yeah, I'll have him listen to what you just said. And then
Yeah.
he does the crit races because it'll help in the gravel and stay at the front. Yeah.
Yeah. And like in a crit, it's nice because you're doing laps around the same course so many times. You can try
Different things.
different lines to pass people. Like at Tulsa Tough, I think it was, if you just stayed on the left side the whole entire time, you could easily make up 30-40 spots by
Oh,
the end
wow.
of a lap if you wanted to,
Yeah.
and not waste a whole bunch of energy doing so.
Cool.
So yeah.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I'll have him listen to this. And so let's talk about your sponsors and such. You got Lauf
Yeah,
and Head.
Lauf is, yeah, my bike company sponsor. And then for wheels, I'm rolling on, yeah, Head wheels. I'll get bird spokes
Yep.
put onto those, so it will help drop the weight and dampen a little bit of the vibration.
Yeah.
And then actually I have like a whole bunch of, they're mostly laser helmets, but
Mhm.
there's
He panned the
four.
camera and he's showing me he's got like what, 5 or 6 helmets back there. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's a couple more throughout the house. But yeah, laser helmets.
Mhm.
For fueling, I'm lucky enough to be sponsored by Maurten, and I think
Oh, I've
nutrition
used
is,
them. Yeah, dude, they're
yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, like, it's the good stuff when the top marathon runners and the top triathletes in the world, like every top person in endurance sports is
Mhm.
using Maurten. So it's like,
Mhm.
I'm super grateful that
Yeah.
they're supporting me this season. And yeah, I
Yeah.
go through so much of their drink mix and have zero gut issues.
That was the first one
Um,
where I was able to do like the giant package, of like however many calories it was. And
yeah,
it didn't bother my stomach. And I was like, holy crap. Wow, that's really amazing. They sent me like 2 boxes worth of the stuff just
yeah,
to talk about on the podcast. And I went through it. Like it took me about a month or two to, to go through it. And I was like, this stuff is amazing. Like it really works. Yeah, Maurten, Maurten for people that don't know.
mhm.
Yeah.
And then Donkey Label is my clothing company sponsor. They're a Minnesota-based company, and like their slogan is hardworking and humble, which is, I feel like, pretty relatable. And
Yeah.
we'll be releasing my kit in 2 weeks. So yeah, I'm excited for that to come out, and it will be available to the public because actually I'm lucky enough to have all of my sponsors. They didn't require me to put their logo on the jersey, so we kind of just did a like cool driftless adventure design. So, and then let's see, Maurten or Emma. So Devin Palmer, he's a realtor in the Minneapolis area. His company MSP Moves. He supports me and my bike events.
Cool. So is that a non-endemic sponsor, what we would call it, like somebody that isn't in the cycling business? That's awesome, dude. Those are hard to get. That's pretty cool.
And then Xpedo pedals. So I'm a bit of a weight weenie, and like actually I didn't hear about them until I got onto the gravel team, but they have their road pedals are lighter than like the Dura Ace road pedals, and I'd actually say more reliable. And then same with their mountain bike pedals. They make besides like the egg beaters, which will fall apart on you in like a month.
They did, dude.
Yeah,
we were on a long training ride out in the middle of nowhere, and my son's egg beater just fell off the spindle, right?
Yeah, my ankle is.
And we were talking to some of the mountain bike coaches on the team, and they were like, Shimano, the M535s, the regular one. They just go back to those, instead of the egg beaters will fall apart on you, and like, yeah. So like, really, people don't think about the pedal reliability so much. So what brand? Xpedo?
Yeah, Xpedo. And their mountain bike pedals are, I think they're just 4 grams heavier than the egg beaters, but then like almost, I want to say close to 100 grams lighter than the Shimano pedals. So like if I can save 100 grams just in pedals.
Rotational weight in a weird way too, because it's your legs not having to spin that around.
Yeah. So they're a part of it. I have the local bike shop in Winona, Adventure Cycle and Ski. They've been sponsoring me for several years now. So in the mountain bike events, I'll be racing on a Super Cal because they're a truck shop. So they hooked me up.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
that's a great bike. That's what my son rides. Yeah, Super Caliber. Fantastic bike. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I guess like what also helps pays the bills is my own coaching business and the events that I put on.
We'll find you on your coaching business.
Yeah. WarkCyclingServices.com. And then on there you can find my 2 events. Granny's Gravel Grinder, which is in Princeton, Minnesota, and then the Hot Dish, which is in Winona, Minnesota. And actually now it was just announced yesterday, we're going to put on a mountain bike race the day after the Hot Dish. So kind of turning into like the long-term goal is to have like a mini off-road festival in Winona, Minnesota for bike races.
Yeah, so, that sounds cool. Winona's got a good ring to it too. It's a name you can't forget. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
So with Lifetime, the Lifetime Grand Prix. So is Sea Otter the first one that we're going to see you at? Is that the first race, or is there something before that?
No, Sea Otter will be the first one.
So we'll see you
and then I think the last sponsor would be Silca. So they're coming on board.
No way. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's your marginal gains guy right there, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, they know.
So
yeah, Silca's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been using their wax forever. So
yeah. That new product they came out with that strips basically the motor oil off that chain right off the bat.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the problems I've been dealing with, I get a new chain and I'm like, what? Okay, yeah, I wax my chain. I use wax lubes and all that stuff. But I'm like, the first problem is getting this crap off this chain, it's such a pain. So yeah, that's pretty cool. There's Sea Otter, and then what's the second race?
Unbound. So I'm just going to train through Sea Otter. I've been since March 3rd. I crashed a Belgian Wall for at Arizona and I bruised my ribs.
Yeah.
So I've barely been able to. Actually, yesterday was my first training ride outside in 3 weeks.
Yeah. Well, you could probably use the brake, no pun intended.
Yeah.
I've noticed that every time I get a small injury, they actually end up getting faster because I trained so much that actually I needed the brake, so yeah.
Yeah. And then so Unbound, which will be my A race for the first half of the season.
Yeah.
And then I'll do some local races. But then, Tusher and the Crusher and the Tusher
Mm-hmm.
will be the third one. I don't know how I'll do at altitude and climbing.
Yeah.
And then Leadville, but I'm skipping Leadville tentatively because of other like obligations outside of that. So
Yeah.
I'll be taking over another gravel event in Minnesota. Okay. That will be announced April 1st. So
well,
it's okay if this is.
Didn't they add a race? Did they add a race and then allow you to drop 2 or something like that at Lifetime?
Yeah, I can drop 2. So I'm hoping I can drop Sea Otter and Leadville.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Schwamigan is the 5th race.
Uh-huh.
I'll do that. That one's in Wisconsin, so it's kind of close. Ish. Yeah. And then the Rad in Trinidad, Colorado, 2 weeks later. And then Big Sugar to end the season. So I'm looking forward to Big Sugar, Onbound, and Schwamigan. Those are probably my top 3 that I'm most excited for. I want to do Leadville, but yeah, I'm excited about taking over the gravel event in Minnesota.
Yeah, you got to think long term. I think, like you're in the industry, so you've got to. Yeah, I think it's smart to run some races and build a business.
Yeah, I shouldn't say take over the event. I'm helping co-host it this year with the plans of me running it the following years. So, but yeah.
Oh, I got a question for you. Last question. So does it bother you at all that you're not going to be able to ride aero bars during the Lifetime events, or you ride them because you can in certain events and it's just is what it is, or what?
Yeah, it sucks that I can't use them at Onbound, but like what was mentioned we can bookend this with bending the rules and bending the rules. I'll just say that much. And then I wouldn't use them at many of the other events because they're very climbing based. They're punchy enough where you're not going to be in the aero bars long enough where it's going to make an effect. Like I won't even run the disc wheel at any of the events other than Onbound.
Yeah. Because you need a longer, flatter, faster race for a disc wheel.
Yeah.
It weighs so much more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember one thing about disc wheels, the fact that they weigh more on road level, flatter road courses is actually a benefit because it keeps up momentum, because of that spinning giant, it's like a big flywheel.
Yeah.
But you're off road and you're constantly having to slow down and speed up and slow down and speed up. And they work great in races where you hardly touch the brakes.
Yeah.
But a race where you touch the brakes a lot, then all of a sudden you're eating into your time with reaccelerating that big wheel.
Yeah. I'm not looking forward to Sea Otter, but
yeah.
Just the opportunity.
I don't think you can just know, you just got to do it and see what happens.
Yeah. That's one thing I learned from last year. The more races you can do sometimes, the better, just because you're gonna have I had mechanicals, so I did 4 races early season last year.
Yeah.
And the first one I had a mechanical. Mm-hmm. The second one I had a really bad legs. The third one was in Arizona. I came from Minnesota and I ended up cramping. I had really good legs, but I cramped. Yeah. And then the next one I flatted. And these are all excuses.
Yeah.
But they're things that happened.
Those are racing. Yeah, those suck.
Yeah. And I had so this year I went back out to the event that I had my first mechanical. I ended up winning that. No mechanicals.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. And then I had Belgian Welfare at Arizona. I crashed there, and that's where I had my bruised rib. I'd like to say I had legs to get 4th or 5th on the day.
Yeah.
But the rib ended up causing breathing issues that I had to I stopped in the middle of the race to stretch and breathe. But I still got 14th, so I was happy with that. And then Valley of Tears, it was just one of those days where the legs were really good. Luck is just gonna happen at some point, and that crash happened super early on, and without that crash, would Keegan and I have gone off the front 10 miles in to a 112-mile gravel race?
Yeah. And you still had a
No,
problem though. Like you did that well, even in a great race, that's why like an Ironman, it's like a race of 1,000 cuts, It's like
yeah.
you still had that camelback. So how did that strap break on the camelback? It just tore from the material or something, or?
I think I've used it. So I train with a camelback on every time I go out and ride, and I have this like reflective, like the reflective triangles you'll see on a tractor. I have one of those, but it's made of like tape and cloth. So I think just from like all the sweat and everything, like some stitching probably
Oh, okay.
wasn't as good as before. And then I've had it for 2 years now, and just like 2 years of training with the
Yeah.
same camelback
Yeah.
day after day. Like, I don't know. Cause I like essentially I just like stuck my hand out, and I
Uh-huh.
did this the weekend before at Belgian Waffle Ride Arizona, stuck my hand out into the hoop, and it
Uh-huh.
just like slings onto your shoulders.
Yeah.
Perfect. Or like you have to get the other strap around. But that in Arizona, it was only half filled with water
Uh-huh.
because I had it like strategically planned. This was a full one, which I think made a difference. Plus the
Uh,
really slippery surface, and my handlebars are only 33 centimeters
yeah.
wide. So like the super narrow bars probably played an effect on it too.
Mhm.
But yeah, it just I don't know. I thought like it took my shoulder back, and I moved my front
Mhm.
wheel. But like if you look, the wheel goes like, I don't know. I messed up, and I went too fast. So
I think the
but
wheel
yeah, I
went
had
sideways and then it made you fall probably away from the person holding the camelback. I'm just
yeah,
guessing.
I went
I'm just trying to remember,
yeah,
picture in my mind the video. And they're still holding.
yeah,
Don't put too much stress on the strap and then snap the strap, I guess.
yeah, I don't, because that strap wasn't even like on me. It should have been behind me.
Yeah, that was the wrong strap, wasn't it? That broke.
Yeah, it
It wasn't
wasn't
even the
even
right
the
strap.
right strap. It was the
Yeah,
left. And
it was the
then I'm
left.
just like about
In that
200
video,
yards.
where you're riding off and I felt so bad for you. Like it's like the worst nightmare, right? When you were reaching behind with your left hand trying to grab the strap, to put your arm through the left strap, but the strap was broken. And so
Yeah,
you're just kind of going for empty air, like this floppy strap that's not even a loop anymore.
yeah,
And we can see it, but you don't know it yet. And we're all like, oh, F, dude, that's
yeah. I don't know what I
yeah.
could have
Oh,
even
you're not the
done
worst
there.
case scenario, dude. I'm riding with a Camelback that's probably 10 years old and it was highlighter yellow, like safety yellow, but
Yeah.
it's almost white because it's got so much sun exposure. It's like bleached out.
Wow.
Yeah. When you open up the flap, in there, it's the right color still because it's not exposed to the sun.
Oh yeah.
You can see what color it was originally, but I'm shocked. The Camelbacks are made really, really well. They're like super tough.
Yeah. Now I have this like they didn't have any like mine was like tan skin colored, pretty neutral, which would actually have matched my new kit pretty well. And I have this like right here on the ground actually. It's like silver with this like
Yeah.
it's a little feminine. I don't know. It was either like black, which I'm like, no, that's just gonna heat up
Yeah.
my water in sunny days, or like I could have got highlighter yellow, but I'm like, okay, I don't want to be seen when I'm trying to like break away from
True.
people, and
Yeah,
I'm
you don't want to
just
stand
this
out
like,
too much. Yeah.
yeah. I was like, do I order two? Like highlighter yellow would be good for training and
Yeah, it
being
is.
seen, but
That's
yeah.
I feel when I wear well when it was lighter yellow. It's still really light colored, it's almost white. But like yeah, I feel much safer wearing a white helmet with the Garmin rear radar blinky light and then the light colored Camelback. I know
Oh
cars
yeah.
can see me from a mile away, and I'm just like for training, I'm like
Mhm.
we're smart. But like, yeah, what you were just showing us, that was a real sleek Camelback, the one you just held up in front of the camera. And what my son used, he did a USWE for the first half, and then the second half, I don't remember which one he did first and which one he did second. But anyway, then we had a Camelback. He used my wife's old Camelback because even though it's more feminine, it's more sleek. So it's more aerodynamic.
Yeah.
It's more aero, and I was like,
I've
that's the one you need to use.
Yeah, everyone's using the U-Squeeze, and like there's like four straps that all have to come up and meet. And I'm like, it's like two really thin straps, like
Oh,
backpack straps, and then just
dude.
like a buckle, which I have taped, and I'm like, there's no way and the hose on the U-Swees is kind of long. I'm like, there's no way. Like, I know everyone has the U-Swee because Dylan Johnson did aero testing on the U-Swee, and now it's like that's what all the cool people use. So everyone's gonna buy it. We're like, I don't know.
The Camelback I use is long and narrow. It's the Rogue. It's an old Rogue or like a Lobe. So it's tall and long and narrow. And in my opinion, it streamlines behind your helmet like perfectly, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly. This one is like the like the width of my head.
And exactly, yeah. And your helmet. Yeah, that's
like,
exactly why I use it.
Just like, well, I don't know.
With those big seat, like airplane strap seat buckles and stuff on the U-Sweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree.
Probably wouldn't break in a crash, though. I don't know.
Yeah. It looks like you're putting on a parachute to jump out of a plane or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, well, cool, dude. You and I agree on a lot. This has been a really fun time, dude.
Thank you. I just burned any chance of me getting a U-Sweet sponsorship. But
well, I can tell you they are very high quality. If they want to sponsor Chase, hit them up. Hit me up. I'll take one. They are very high quality, and they're made in Sweden, and they got a little tag on it, the little Swedish flag.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, on the dude, they got it down. And I think as far as marketing goes, the fact that their hose is red instead of some other color, you know.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. Like, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So, all right. Well, thanks, man. It's been nice talking.
Yeah. Good chatting with you too.
I'm thinking about changing the name of the show to Zen and the Art of Endurance instead of Zen and the Art of Triathlon. Yeah, because we've migrated so much into like marathon mountain biking, and this show's always done really long distance stuff like ultra marathons and marathon swimming, and it just happens to be that Ironman is the center of it all. But as my son, he started off in triathlon, and then the high school team had mountain biking, had a mountain bike team, and that was way more fun. And then so he got into doing that, and then I found out about marathon mountain biking by accident. And I was like, and the team asked me to be a coach for their mountain biking stuff. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, dude, marathon mountain biking is where it's at, dude. It's like you've been in a car wreck. Like it takes it takes like half the day, and it's just so hard and it's so long, you know. And then I wasn't very good at it. So I was like, well, this gives me something to try to get better at. And then gravel racing came about. I told him that to become a better mountain bike racer, he needs to get miles in on the road, you know, for volleyball. But then he was like 14, and I was like, I don't want you out on the road here in Texas with bad drivers. So his friend lent him a gravel bike, and then I rode my mountain bike with him, and I was like, holy crap, we can do this. This is fine, you know? And then he became one of the better mountain bikers in the state, high schooler mountain bikers, because he was doing 3-hour rides, you know, on gravel. And like what you're saying, just do miles and miles and miles and hardly ever see a car and just get in all this volume. So yeah, it's cool. All right, dude. I'll talk to you soon. I'll let you know when the code's up. And good luck.
Yeah.
Stay in touch.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Talk to you later. Bye.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you so much, Chase. He already turned around and raced at Mid-South, which was a very competitive race. And I noticed he was racing on the suspension fork. And then I also noticed that Dylan Johnson posted a short video clip, one of those ones in one of those many social media apps that disappears for some reason. So I can't go find it again. What a brilliant idea, whoever came up with that is. But whatever. Dylan Johnson posted a video of the Lauf fork on the front of his felt breed gravel bike. Obviously, as a result of the aerodynamic testing that went down that I mentioned at the beginning of the show. But all right, hit up Chase, tell him thanks for being on the show. And let's move on. Next, what we're going to do is go into the training log. And for new listeners to the show, this is the magic and soul of Zen and the Art of Endurance, because it's where I take you with me on my workouts, and you get to relive it as I'm wrapping them up, and you get the whole soundscape of what it's really like to be out there training as an ultra distance athlete. And a lot of things come up, and I share them with you. And because it's audio, you get to let your imagination run wild. And also, it's a lot easier to put yourself in these shoes when it's not video and it's just audio. You can picture in your mind you doing this exact same stuff. This week's episode, we got a lot of wrapping up swimming. Next week's episode, I've already started recording, and it's got a lot of biking and running mixed in. So if you think this one's got swimming and it's going to be swimming forever, it is not. it's going to move over to biking and running, healthy mix of everything. But anyway, let's move along and dive into the training log. Here we go.
You are entering the ZenEndurance training log zone. Huneli.
Hi everybody, my name is Brett. I'm a triathlete.
I decided it's time I got some friends more suited to my status.
But Joe, we've been friends for years.
Hey, we all make mistakes. Come on, dudes, let's go exercise! Exercise! Yeah! I'm gonna do sit-ups till I poop myself!
Hello. All right, training log, start date, March 31st? I don't know, Sunday morning. And just finished a long, well, not really a long run, 7-mile run. A little bit longer than my usual daily runs. And I wanted to talk a little bit about some wind tunnel testing videos that I saw. And also, let's see, this run was really nice. There was a bunny rabbit, got video of that. It's up on Zen Triathlon on Instagram. And it was overcast mostly. So I did 7 miles and change, 7.15, but who's counting? And after I was done, came back and I'm soaking waist deep in an ice cold pool. Here you go. Hear that? And enjoying a Hopadillo. So Carbach Brewery IPA, the infamous Texas Armadillo with hops. But anyway, I did the first lap with River, and it's getting a little bit more humid, although this pool is freezing cold. It feels really good up to the waist. And he stops so much. Over a 1 hour run, it adds almost half an hour. It's like 25 minutes. So much stopping and starting. You don't really get a sustained run working on form and technique. And since it's getting warmer, I can drop him off and he's done. Although he took a dip in the pool before we started, which he kind of likes to do. He gets in up to his ankles and then jumps out. And I'm like, no, that's not it. But anyway, if we soak him down before we start, then he can do like 4, 5, 6 miles, maybe 5 on a hot day. Cold day, he can do 12. We've done that. But anyway, second lap was really nice. And I've spaced out my runs a little bit and not trying to do them so back to back to give my legs time to recover. And because it's just like my legs were just beat up every time I was running. And I was like, I skipped some runs. You know, life happens. Here's your moment of Zen. You don't know what's going to happen until it doesn't. Anyway, the runs, I skipped a bunch of them because we were racing and such, or out of town. And then I went back and ran faster and more comfortable than I had in a long time. I was like, oh, when you space these runs out, you're doing too much. So that's what I've been doing. And it's working out really nice. Nice run. There's a long section with a tailwind, which will really cook you in the summer. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that. The wind's predominantly out of the south here in the summer, and it's humid and hot coming off the Gulf of Mexico. So it's a real cooker. If you live in a hot, humid place like the Texas Gulf Coast or the Gulf Coast in general, the wind in the summer, you got to plan your run route so they're short little loops. And then you're never running with the wind and cooking to death for too long. And it'll make your running a whole lot better. All right, back to the 2 videos that I noticed. They were both put on by GTN. They're on YouTube. GTN is GCN's Triathlon branch. And this was very interesting in relation to our interview with Chase Wark. I almost said Mark Chase. With Chase Wark, and how much energy is he saving, and how much faster is he riding with aero bars and more aero when everybody else isn't. And these 2 videos start off with, they took an old school triathlete from the early 80s. So Xpedo, tank top, maybe a road bike, maybe had some aero bars on it. I don't think, but a road bike and non-aero helmet. Xpedo, if I said that already. And then socks and without socks and such. Anyway, and then they compared it to a modern triathlete in a full-on tri-bike and aero helmet and such. And they found that over the period of an Ironman, well, it saves you 40 watts per hour to be with aero bars and more aero. And then that equated to 45 minutes or so over, if you're going whatever miles per hour, over an Ironman course. So 112 miles, it's 45 minutes about. And the reason I found that interesting is the old school 80s triathlete was not dressed too differently than a current retro grouch gravel racer with floppy kit and furry legs and no Aero anything, round tube bike, and riding upright. And I was like, wow, man, that is nuts. And I wanted to share that with y'all. There's another video I can talk about in a second. But, you know, one reason, people are like, why do I want to go faster? You know, makes it over sooner and stuff like that. Well, one reason you want to go faster is if the race starts in the morning and it's going to be a hot race or the conditions are not fun, you're out there that much longer. And, you know, Ironman pros always talk about how, yeah, they're fast and wow, they're amazing and whatever. But oh my God, the age groupers that stay out there on the run until 4, 5, 6 in the afternoon through that heat is just absolutely crazy. So imagine how much less time you have to spend if you're doing an Ironman out on the hot marathon because you started almost an hour earlier because your bike was that much faster. That was pretty interesting. And, you know, on a training day, you want to get done faster, get in more miles to meet your goals or, you know, whatever for your goal race. And you can be done sooner, get back to your family. Or start later, you know, have breakfast with your family first. Okay, there's that. And then the other video that was so interesting was they compared a triathlon, a road bike, and then a road bike with clip-on aero bars, and then a triathlon bike, and then a slammed triathlon bike. And they progressively got faster, except for one thing, which I thought was really interesting, was the clip-on aero bars on a road bike was actually faster than, and we're talking faster than, just like the previous video. It's this difference that's almost an hour over a really long race. And it was actually faster than a triathlon bike with kind of a more sloppy, kind of upright, relaxed position. Same kit, same everything. So I'm starting to put more twos and twos. I'm now up to 4 and 4s together. And I'm like, man, a gravel bike with clip-on aero bars is as fast out on the course as a kind of typical meh setup on a triathlon bike. Just think of that. If the wind resistance on the tires and the weight on the tires was evened out. That is absolutely nuts. So basically, putting aero bars on your gravel bike, and then when you're not in the pack anymore and you're kind of out on your own, having aero bars is almost as fast as having a triathlon bike, a dedicated TT bike. That is crazy. And then also, if you're on the fence about buying a triathlon bike and you've got a road bike laying around, put on a forward-facing seat post. Google it. They're pretty cool. And then, you know, to get you in triathlon position, and then put on some clip-on aero bars and you'll be almost as fast. That's really maybe as fast, you know, like, wow. And you saved a ton of money. Go get a power meter. That's what I always say. Anytime you save money, I'm like, go get a power meter. And there's one point that, just to be clear on, that people always bring up is, well, I'm not going that fast, so I don't need all that aero stuff. Turns out that is counterintuitive. It is counterintuitive that actually the slower you are, the more time you spend out there. And then in the end, the more time aerodynamics is affecting you. And then it's even worse the slower you go down to a point, down to like maybe like 8 miles an hour, 7 miles an hour. You wouldn't think that, but think about this. The flip side of that is whenever they said that somebody, you know, at 30 kilometers per hour would take 45 minutes longer to do the course, the person doing 45 kilometers per hour took like 30 minutes longer to do the course, right? So it was, even though he was going faster, it was less time that was a penalty that affected him. He lost less time, and it's not because it was easier, it's actually harder, but the thing that seems to be more important is if you're done sooner, then there's less time for the wind to affect you. It's pretty interesting. So you could theorize that at gravel speeds, aerodynamics is even more important than it is at road speeds. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but it's definitely something to think about. All right. That's it for right now. I think my legs are cooled off. I'm going to find out if I'm gravel riding this afternoon with Kai and Kylie. They're swinging by, and let's see if we're going to get a ride in. Who knows? I'll have to text them and find out. Hello. Hey, gang. I just finished a 2-hour bike ride, wrapping up the week. I don't know how many miles or whatever I got in this week. It's a lot. But something occurred to me that I've been wanting to mention for a while. And, you know, there's this ban now on putting bottles down the front of your jersey in Ironmans and maybe road cycling too. Not gravel yet. We'll see how that goes. But one thing I wanted to point out is one thing that also works a lot is a bottle down the back of your jersey, like in the middle jersey pocket, if you have one. That is always tested in wind tunnels to be faster with than without. And I have, 30 freaking cycling jerseys probably. Well, maybe not that many, but close to it. And, over the years they get stretched out or some are too big, but just by a little bit. And one trick to make a cycling jersey fit a little bit tighter, if it's just a little loose and kind of flapping a bit, is to put a water bottle in the back jersey pocket. What that does is, with the weight of the water, it pulls your jersey back and down, and then it pulls it tight across your body. And it acts kind of like a little seamstress in there, stitching up the extra slack and getting rid of the flippity flaps so that you can actually ride faster. It's pretty cool. I've been playing around with it for a while, and it really does seem to work, and I keep forgetting to mention it. So I just finished a 2-hour ride, feeling really strong, was doing low cadence up the hills, and that early on, and then that seemed to activate some sort of stimulus in the body that was like, I want to do more of this. And then another trick, a good workout thing to do, is to do standing climbing over the tops of hills to get going, especially standing and climbing, standing and pedaling to gain speed on the downhill. And then you're kind of mixing up muscle groups and such, because it's regaining speed on the downhill. That's really helpful. But anyway, play around with the water bottle in the back of your jersey. Oh, another trick that's really cool is what I use sometimes is what I'm using, happen to have in me right now, is the the flat Aero bottle and a Rundle water bottle. That's a time trial water bottle. I happen to have 2 of them laying around, and that lays flat against your back, and you get the benefit of a little bit more Aero plus carrying some water, plus it doesn't stick up a lot, and also it pulls your jersey tight all in one. Highly recommended. If you got an old Aero water bottle, give it a try. It's not quite so noticeable too, so you don't look weird. All right, that's it. Just rinsed off the bike. Time to go inside. Got some dinner cooking. Out, bang. Welcome from the edge of the pool. It's Monday morning. I'm at the swimming pool, the lap pool, and it was hard getting here this morning. Just sleepy. I thought I'd record a little bit while I'm getting out because I forgot my fuel bottle that I usually use, but I had a granola bar bottle with me, and they're actually playing good workout music, and I had this granola bar and Diet Coke. So I brought that on the deck. Diet Coke's got some caffeine. Carbonation is probably not good for your stomach while you're exercising, but I do 5 sets, so I ate a little bit between each set, and then it crossed my mind, oh crap, there's grackles, which is this horrific bird, and crows, and I was like, man, I'm gonna come up and there's gonna be no granola bar left. But anyway, I want to go ahead and get a recording started, and we'll pick up here in a minute. I need to go shower. I'm a little bit late for work. Had to stop for gas on the way here. I forgot about that, but I thought I would just take my time. The biggest thing is the ritual of getting ready to go. If you don't feel like it, that doesn't matter. You might feel like it, and you probably will feel like it a little while, especially after a little bit of cereal and 2 cups of coffee. So that's why it's nice to have rituals when you do things, because it gets you, a lot of people do this with making coffee in the morning, and then after a little while, when they wake up, then they feel like working. So a ritual gets you going while your body's still kind of warming up and such. And that's what I did this morning. Just followed the ritual, because it's so important to get to the pool. Once you get to the pool, a lot of times you actually do feel like swimming. It's the hard part is getting to the pool and getting wet. Hey, there's a mockingbird. All right, let's get in the shower and head to WTRK. All right, leaving the pool. I'm in the locker room right now. Oh no! I just realized I packed the wrong jeans. I'm wearing my pandemic fat pants from when I was eating Oreos and not able to swim. I can't believe these things fit for a while. That I had 3 swims left. Now I have 2 swims left before I got to punch my card. Oh my God, these pants are falling around my ass. It's both good and bad, right? I'm like excited. This is how much weight I lost. Oh, and it keeps coming off. Making the long walk to the car here. Is there no school today? They have Monday off? Anyway, Good Friday and Bad Monday. A little swim tip for people to swim faster, especially when going long distance. There is a way to swim when you're going long that is very efficient. So today, like I was saying earlier, I really didn't feel like it, like a good swim. It's just kind of dragging ass. And, you know, whatever. But I was still swimming a 129 per 100-yard pace without trying. And that's all from body position that you learn over time of trying to be efficient. And one way to get that is to remember to keep your body separate from your arms, right? You want to keep your body like a torpedo. If you have a torpedo that's rounded in the front, like your head, and in a total straight line, like a log. So take a log and round the front of it. Let's see, do I have flip-flops in this car? I do! There you are. At least I got that. And I'm getting out of my sliders and into my executive flip-flops. It's a joke because they're black. And in San Diego, executives wear flip-flops. Well, I worked there briefly, 2 years. Okay, then you can practice this. Oh, and if you keep your toes pointed back and your legs together, so you're like one long log torpedo, very streamlined. If you practice that, then, man, I might have to find a rope to hold my pants up. This is something else. If you practice that and learn that position, and then you keep your arms separate from that, then what happens is between strokes, your body continues to glide. Okay, so there's a millisecond, half a second between strokes, especially if you're swimming slowly, of glide, right? Well, if you're an inefficient swimmer, that glide is like an anchor because your legs are spread apart, your body's all twisted, you're coming up for air at like an angle. So then you're plowing, basically, is what happens. So if you're not plowing, if your body position is as perfect as you can get it, then when you're not actually putting forth any effort, you're actually still gliding like you're on a bicycle, right? The reason a bicycle is the most efficient machine known to man is because you're on wheels, and when you're not pedaling, the wheels allow you to continue forward motion. So imagine that if you were swimming and you weren't actually pulling or kicking, then you still have your kinetic injury. Energy is still allowing you to glide forward through the water much more efficiently. And then the compound effect is you don't have to re-accelerate as much every time between pulls. And that's the difference when you see a fast swimmer is they're gliding along through the water. They've figured out, like a barracuda only has to twitch its tail, or a shark, just a little bit, and it continues this glide motion through the water. And that's where you want to be. And then you can swim easily, and you'll swim a whole bunch faster and conserve energy. And one way to practice that is with a pull buoy. Make sure you swim about half the time with the pull buoy, and that teaches you to remove the kick from your swim so much. Your kick actually slows you down if you kick more than just really, you know how a squirrel doesn't push itself around with its tail, it uses its tail as a counterbalance. Same thing with cats. And your kick is more it's more like if you want to swim fast over a long distance, your kick is more like your arms when you run. It provides a counterbalance to keep your body in the right position to be efficient. So you kick a little bit, but you don't kick so much. So by removing the kick entirely, it shows you, just try it if you haven't, put a pull buoy between your legs and watch how much faster you swim, because it gets you up in the right position and it removes the kick and it puts you in that glide. So swim with a pull buoy about half the time, and that'll teach you how to not rely on your kick so much, and it'll work your upper body, make your upper body stronger anyway, and it'll teach you to glide between strokes because you're in the perfect position. And then when you remove it, you try to imitate that position as much as you can, and then after a while you're swimming in that position all the time. Okay, the other one is glide into the wall to do your turn, especially flip turn, and notice if you glide a long ways into the wall, you got a good position, and practice what position works best to glide longer into the wall with more speed, to a sustained speed that doesn't put on the brakes too fast. And that's a good position. And then try to imitate that in your swim, and then keep your arms separate from your body. Imagine you're a paddle wheeler and your arms are paddle wheels on the side, and keep your body straight. Imagine you're a torpedo with paddle wheels on the side. Okay, so there's all that. I was just listening to Adam Roberge's review of Mid-South, which is a really cool race. And that reminds me that Dylan Johnson just did Mid-South. And he released a video where, I mean, it really proves that rolling resistance is the new frontier. Aerodynamics, marginal gains is dead. Long live marginal gains. And now it's rolling resistance. And because mountain bike tires are so much bigger in volume, they make them thinner. And the thin ones, a thin tire actually has less rolling resistance. You worry about the thinness. Well, a thin tire with low pressure isn't going to puncture as easily as you would think. It's going to puncture less easily because of it gives, so you got a sharp rock. Well, it's not going to fight against that rock. It's just going to wrap around it and then go over it and not get punctured by it. And so for a rough terrain like gravel, that's just constant, rubble, little bits, a mountain bike tire is faster than a narrower gravel bike tire. And by those, we mention mountain bike tire. He rode a 2.2 inch, they might have been Mezcals. Anyway, he's got a YouTube video, go check it out. And 2.2 inch Mezcal, of course you have to have a frame. He rides a felt something that has a frame that'll hold like up to a 57 millimeter tire. And 2.2 inches measured out to a 52 millimeter tire. And he got fifth. And not only did he get fifth, but he got fifth in a bunch pack that was anybody could have gotten first in that thing pretty much. Just who had sprint legs left. So he wasn't fifth like strung out, like 5 minutes in front of the leader. It was all of them, and he got fifth. Possibly could have gotten fourth because race number placement. That was an interesting thing. The race timing mat reads your chip, and he had it further back on his frame and sideways against his frame to be more aero. And the other guy had his race plate with the timing chip in it further out forward, and that might have made the difference. Oh my gosh, yeah. So there's that. And Kai has said that he definitely wants to do Gravel Locos, which is still a ways off, which means we need to gather up some funds, because to do it right, we bring the RV, and the RV's in the shop. And then also I got one new rear tire. I need another new rear tire before I tow anything. I'm still a little bit paranoid about the other front two tires, so we got to get that out. And then the RV, though, will save us money, or we'll end up breaking even. There's a guy in front of me pedaling like really weird. I think his front wheel's loose. Okay, I don't know what he's doing. The RV will save us money in hotel bills, especially because there's no hotel nearby. there's a tiny little hotel that's been taken up. And then the RV, oh my gosh, I'm in intersection hell right now. I'm at a 4-way stop, but it's a 2-way stop, so I gotta wait for everybody to go by. Oh, it's college students and crazy bikes and stuff, and electric scooters, people walking. I'm 1 block from campus, but then that campus is a golf course for a while, and then it's campus. Not that close. But the RV will be a few hundred yards from the start line. And that's what we did last year. And that was pretty freaking cool. And then it's like a couple miles from town. And if we take it for 3 days, then all of a sudden it becomes worth it. But yeah, we've got to get it out of the shop, which is going to cost us $500. I think we still owe on it. And then I need a rear tire. And I think then we'll be good to go. And then book an RV spot. Anyway, I'm at the orifice. You could tell I'm actually very relaxed this morning. Got a lot of good workouts in this weekend. And now I just need to catch up with life and see if I can keep my pants up. I got some toe straps back here. I don't know. Ooh, what's this one? I don't know. Might have to end up doing that. We'll see. All right. Talk to you later. Out. Bing. Okay, and we're running. Oh, a bunny rabbit. Wrapping up a 10K run. About to clock over at 6.2. And I timed it like this on purpose. There's 6.2. So I'd finish a little bit early so I could talk, because I am listening to the coolest, I hate to call it a podcast because it's a YouTube video. I have a problem with that. Being an original podcaster, it's all audio. Anyway, Peter Tia, Atilla, and Olav, Olav, Alexander Boo, B-U, who's from Norway, Norwegian Training Method. 2 very, very smart guys. And this is homework for you guys to listen to, because we're going to talk about it on the next podcast. But I can tell you that I was running very relaxed upper body, and I was feeling like I could breathe a whole lot better. And it made me run just as fast with a lower heart rate, which is something I've done a ton of on the treadmill. I want to talk about that. So go listen to this podcast, listen to the beginning of it, pay attention to things like an Olympic swimmer uses 25% less oxygen swimming the same pace as one of the top pro triathletes that was an adult that learned to swim later or doesn't swim all the time. And the cool thing is once you listen to it, I have recommendations on what you can do to take advantage of this, about volume, how to do your base training smarter. It validated exactly what I've already thought and put it into really good words. So I'm going to talk about that on the next podcast. Okay, so my running kit here, nice little run, 6.2 miles, like I said. And I have my Garmin, of course. Let's save that. And I run with a Camelback that holds, but it's not a Camelback brand. It's just mesh, and it holds a water bladder down the middle, mesh straps. There's no material except for just mesh straps, and that carries, I think, 1.5 liters. And then that's enough where I can fuel on the run, and it doesn't hurt my stomach to fuel on the run. And on the run, I do about 100 calories, and it just keeps me happy and practicing. It's not too much. I burn 600 and something calories when I run 6 miles. I burn 100 calories per hour. I've been tested in a lab, 2 labs actually, one in Boulder, one in Houston. And let's see, running shorts that have big pockets. I ordered them once, these Nike ones, and they're so perfect that I took a look at the UPC code and just ordered them again through somewhere. I don't remember, but the pockets are really big, which makes it so I can hold my phone in my left side and a gel flask in the right. And that's how I do my fuel. Is I do a little bit of sugar, a little bit of Gatorade, and put that in a gel flask with water, shake it up. Then it's diluted, and I can just sip on it every 10 minutes. And I try to finish it within the hour, and then I'm not totally depleted going into the day. And a running visor and a light. Oh, this is funny. River's dog collar, well, his running collar is, Emily's left the house, so I can talk in the house. She had to go to an early work meeting. Nurses are the hardest working people on earth, man. It's crazy. Hello. Hello. Hi. Oh, you got my work shoe? Okay. River likes to carry around a shoe anytime one of us comes home, and then we can't find it later because the attention span of a dog, he just drops it when he stops thinking about it. Anyway, recovery beverage. If you run with a dog, but also if you just run, because check this out, I suggest that you go to PetSmart or Petco, whatever's at Tower Point Shopping Center in College Station, Texas. Look through the dog collars and find the LED light up dog collar that is rechargeable, and it's got a little rubber grommet that goes, a little plug that goes over the charge port. And it has 4 color modes. It has red, blue, maybe green. And then it has rotating, or it's a slow, it takes about 5-6 seconds to rotate through the different colors. And it rotates them like in a streak through the collar, through this collar. It looks like a camelback tube, it's clear. And then it comes really big, and then you can cut it down to size. And then we cut it down to the size to fit around River's neck without being too tight. So it's kind of loose, actually. And so when we run with him, man, he stands out. Like, it is really cool. And we want to run with him with a light on because he's a black dog and cars can't see him. And especially, like, what if he gets off the leash? But I'm sure you've all seen as we run, there's people out running now with that kind of thing on, like on a vest. And you can see them from a mile away with their not glow in the dark, but it's LED light up tubing like all over them. Looks like Tron. There we go. And hold on a second. Oh, by the way, you may ask, like, why do you need to carry a liter and a half of water for an hour run in Texas? Or for an hour run? It's because we're in Texas, and 1, it gets really hot. But 2, a lot of people don't fuel enough because they're worried they're going to run out of fuel or they're going to run out of water to digest the fuel. So if you bring a little bit extra, then you're more likely to do the right amount instead of trying to ration to the end and then not use enough, right? Because you're paranoid. So if you bring a little bit extra on your training and the first part of your races, River drinking. If you bring a little bit extra, then you'll be more likely to do the right amount of fueling because you're not holding back because you're not worried about running out. Think about that. One of your 1,000 tips. And back to the collar thing. I don't know if you can tell where this is going yet, but I run half in the morning with River when it's warmer like it is today. And then I run half with by myself now. I figured this out. I have a calf injury and it leads to all kinds of, chain of effect of bad stuff. It's really annoying. And I'd gotten to the point where I was running really stiff to, unnaturally stiff to preserve the body, protect the body. I'm not doing it on purpose. You can just kind of tell what's happening. And that's a lot of what we just talked about with Olav Alexander Boo that we're talking about in the next podcast was like letting go of holding stiff and running loose. That's next show stuff. But the thing about Zen is when you learn that you can make features out of problems, like a master carpenter or a master chef. When something goes wrong, they go, oh, I can change that into a dessert, right? That's the difference between a chef and a cook. And somebody working with wood versus a master carpenter, they can look at a mess and then make something out of it. They become an artist with it, with their work, because they see things that you normally wouldn't see. I like the master carpenter example. I did not come up with that with Zen. That's actually a thing in Zen. But my great-granddad was a master carpenter. That's pretty neat. Anyway, after years of trying to work around this problem, a tight calf does things like gives you plantar fasciitis on that same foot because it's pulling really hard. What are you eating? Don't eat a toilet paper roll, the cardboard. That's gross. Sorry, people. House life, dog life. And so when I started running with River, I noticed he, more than any dog I've had before, wants to stop and sniff constantly. And then you can't really get in a good run because you're stopping too much. But then I noticed when I started running with him like that, I was like, dude, this stopping a bunch at first, it's actually really good. Because what happens is if I just start running and the terrain here is lots of rolling short hills, lots of them. Like I live on one, and then I go 100 feet, and then there's another one going up. I got to go down and then back up. And they're all like 20 to 30 feet, just constant. And hitting, with like let's say 4% grade in places. So like hitting a 4% grade, walking out of your door is not good warm up for a calf injury, as you can imagine. So I've figured out a run route where I run downhill for a long time, and then he wants to stop and sniff for a long time. And then that gives me, and then I run level for a long time and he's stopping and sniffing. And by the time I start to go uphill, I'm kind of warmed up. But specifically, I've noticed because of the breaks I have to take for him to refuse to move forward until he inspects this one, lamppost and then pees on it or takes a poop. He likes to take a poop at the beginning of a run. It's funny how dogs can do that, butt naked in public. And next time you're walking your dog or you see somebody with their dog and their dog's taking a dump, just imagine a person doing that right there. And like the chaos, the panic that would ensue. It'd be really funny. Don't do that. Okay, then I've noticed, that I can run and my calf injury has gone away to the point where I kind of forgot about it. The foot part I forgot about. And that's how I like to say that an injury, you're over an injury, is where you've forgotten about it. And you have to remember, oh yeah, I was injured there. That's a really good sign. But anyway, what I figured out, making features out of problems, because if I try to run a full hour with him, it takes an extra 26 minutes to 30 minutes because he stops so much. And that stop, start. It's not really a good way to settle into a run. But then I feel bad for him. He's a pandemic puppy. And he's a German Shepherd, so he loves to run. He loves me. He loves being with me. I love being with him. He grew up in my lap on Zoom as a puppy. From the tiniest puppy, we had to wait to bring him home because he was so little. And he looked like a fruit bat, that black fruit bat that they feed the baby. That's exactly what he looked like as a baby. And I know that from previous experience with other dogs, that young dogs especially, that are a working breed or a running breed, then they need to run or they're going to destroy your house. And all their destruction is actually energy, that they should be out, herding cows and sheep and stuff, or patrolling a junkyard. And so I don't want to run without them because then I'm being a terrible person. And I think I really enjoy him running and then the effect, and and it's good practice being a good person. Let's move to another room. Yeah, the pets, dogs especially, are really good trainers for kids. You practice giving first, and then with no reward, and then eventually the reward comes. So it practices, patience and long-term thinking and forgiveness and letting things slide, because in the end it's going to be worth it. If you've ever had a dog that's 6 years old, you get 6 to more years out of a dog like that. The first 3 years are, it's a lot of work. But anyway, so I'm dropping him off. I could train him to not stop and sniff. He's really smart so much, but I think that that's good for him. We got a backyard and stuff, but it's good for him to check out the neighborhood and stuff. Dog psychologists say. So the funny thing is the other day I was running in my light, my headlamp thing that I wear, that I've built out of scrap parts, as I do most things. It had died, so I didn't really have a light anymore. And I'm dropping River off. My light's dead. So, and it's nighttime and it's getting darker, and it's dark, period. And let's change rooms. There's these people that like to walk their dogs down the street, and my dogs go ape smit over it. Okay, so I'm in Kai's room. Why is the fan on? I'm in dad mode right now. Turn the lights off. Then I'm unloading River so that I can run the next 3 miles with him. Plus it's getting warmer. So see this mastery of kind of Zen of go with the flow and figure things out. And humans are such a successful species because we learn to optimize things faster than anybody else. And we look for patterns and leverage and engineering. And the thing is I'm holding this River's light in my hand, this collar that's large. It's a big loop, and it's glowing, and I'm about to lay it down and turn it off and drop off his leash, his retractable leash and stuff. And I'm about to head out, and I've got a dead light. So let's say that collar's in my left hand, all lit up, and I got a dead headlamp in my right. And I'm going, man, I don't want to go out there. Maybe it was misting rain or something like that. I'm man, I don't want to go out there and get hit by a car because cars can't see me. That sucks, but I guess I got to go. And then boom, it hit me. And I was like, dude, put River's collar over your head and wear it around. I wanted to wear it around my waist, but it wouldn't fit. And well, I haven't really tried. I assume it won't fit. But then it might fit. Where is it? Where did I put it? But I put it around my neck, but it hangs big and loose. So it doesn't look like a necklace, like a choker or something like that. It's rather large. And I thought maybe it would bother my vision and stuff, but it doesn't. Oddly enough, it's far enough down. And so I started running with this light. Let me see if it goes around my waist. No, it does not. I don't know if that's good or bad. But I start running with this light around my neck. It's like a lei, like a Hawaiian lei. And I eventually figure out to turn it to just red unless if I'm running in the complete dark, or else the rotating lights kind of annoy me. And then out on where there's like some street lights and stuff like that, and cars and whatever, I put it on rotating light. And then I'm running along with one of these things that I bought that is for dogs, so it's cheaper. And then cars can see me from all angles because it's around my neck, right? So they can see me from the back, the front. It's waterproof, it's rechargeable, and honestly, I think it's really, really, really smart. And honestly, I think you could buy the big version and maybe buy a new one and cut it to fit somewhere on your bike or something like that. Like cut to fit it on your bike. Because the rotating colors is majorly like, holy crap, what is that thing? Looks like an alien, a UFO. And boy, humans are our brains light up when we see something like that at night. But anyway, good run. I need to shower up and go to work. Did you have a good run, River? He's licking the microphone. All right, that's it. I think that's our last entry for the training log. We got a lot to talk about. And I talked to Chris Miller a little bit last night. I mean, as little as humanly possible to have a personal conversation at the same time. But it was still pretty cool. And yeah, we'll be right back. Hold on, Bing. Oh, I think I might have gone off on a tangent. I was driving and then I was like, oh, did I forget to say something? Connecting the dots, River having to stop a lot, and that's a downside, but trying to turn that into a feature, kind of like how people turn, they got a work commute, but they don't have enough time to train. So they bike their commute or run their commute. And then all of a sudden you're getting in your training that you need. Well, I learned to appreciate if it only happens for the first half of the run or less, it's very particular, then I learned to appreciate him stopping to sniff stuff, because then that allows my legs to warm up. A little bit of what I've got is compartment syndrome, and that's where your calves like pump up too fast, and then it feels painful in your calves and maybe your feet. And if you take your time getting up to speed, and from what I learned, taking breaks and then kind of flexing your legs, flexing your toes and stuff like that to let the calves kind of calm down, then you don't get that anymore. And it's a thing that's like, the more it happens, the worse it gets. The more it happens, the worse it gets. A compounding downward spiral of making things worse. And a combination of things of having a dog that wants to stop and sniff, and then me figuring out, I could do, because it's so hot, it's gonna get hot. I don't want to take them the full 6 miles. And with the 5 dogs I've had before that we go running with, I learned that in the summer you run. If I had 2 dogs, I would run with 1 dog and then drop it off and pick up another dog. The only difference right now is it's uphill to my house the very last little bit, and I don't want to do that every single time. Like, it's steep. But anyway, I guess that's my big hang up. My old house, it was flat, so I didn't mind swinging back by the house to drop off the dog, because I'm trying to limit, again, the vertical for my compartment syndrome. And anyway, so these converging factors of running with him just half of my run, dropping him off, and then the second half of the run, now, because of all the stopping and stuff like that, I've had a nice warm-up. And this is something that's really important that triathletes, especially those of you that are listening that are single sport, you have time to warm up and then do things right. Let's just say that. You have time to do things right. Triathletes do not have time to do things right. So what we have to do, for example, is build our warm-up right into the workout. It's almost indistinguishable. And the way we do that is the first 10 to 15 to 20 minutes of your workout, should be really, really, really easy. And if you do that, then you don't need to do a warm-up. And that's time saved and miles under your belt and zone 2 training that'll count. So you're getting the double dip there. It's pretty cool. But now that I'm all warmed up and dropped off the dog, now I can go out for my second loop and I can run a whole lot better. And because it's a sustained run, I can work on form. And like you heard earlier, I got like a little Camelback and a gel flask. I got a headlamp and my rainbow dog collar. Then I have actually a really good second run. I'm able actually to focus on the things that matter along with having a really good warm-up. So it's a really good example of taking faults and turning them into features, which is a very Zen thing that we can learn with patience and observance of being mindful of what we're doing and looking for ways to optimize. And back to the dog collar thing. Yeah, at PetSmart, I bet it's about $30. Let me Google it real quick. Oh, it's $17.99. And I cannot recommend it enough. It is Night, spelled incorrectly, N-I-T-E, eyes, spelled incorrectly, I-Z-E, so it's night space eyes, Night Howl, night spelled incorrectly again, Night Howl, LED rechargeable necklace. But let's see in the description. Oh, I can't go there. It's blocked. Let's see. Night Eyes, Night Howl, LED rechargeable necklace. I'm looking to see how long it is. Oh, this is the mini. We want the full. Big dog. Same price, $17.99. Yeah, they call it disco mode, the revolving color. So universal sizing cut to fit from 12 is what they recommend the smallest to 27 inches. So it's a 27-inch loop at the most. So you could sling that over your handlebars or behind you. A little bit too small to go around most people's waist. A lot of women might be able to fit that around their waist. I have to find out. I can try it out on Emily. She's got a narrow waist. Woo! Anyway, they have a whole bunch of different versions. They have single color. Yeah. I really like the disco one. And, well, it'll do single colors and do disco. And again, it's rechargeable and it's got rubber plugs over the charge port and the rubber surface over the on-off button. And also the on-off button acts as a mode button where you're red, blue, green, or disco. Anyway, that's it. Wanted to mention that. Oh, well, I keep going back. If it was a bad idea, I wouldn't have done it. I think I've done it 3 times now. And the fact that I've gone back 3 times means I'm pretty much sold on this working. It was pretty nice. Like, I was able to run. The sun wasn't up yet, but it was getting close. So it was twilight, I guess, or whatever it's called in the morning. That sounds like an evening thing. It was morning twilight and dawn, and it was still dim, very dim outside, but it was silly to have on a headlamp. And then cars can only see you from the front. And then wearing this thing, I knew that because it's encircled around my shoulders, that cars could see me from the front and back, side to side. And it did not interfere with my vision. I was worried it was going to interfere with my vision. And it didn't. It was actually pretty cool. All right. Oh, so then I was able to run much more calmly and enjoying the scenery and know that I could be seen. And also I could turn it off if I didn't want to be seen and just be left alone with just a click of a button. It's really cool. All right. PetSmart, give me your sponsorship dollars. Send me an email at texifornia@gmail.com. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Be back in a minute. All right. Leaving the pool. Nice little swim this morning. Hear my ice cup going. Got a lot of people in the parking lot today. I wonder what's going on. Looks like maybe they're starting some kind of swim camp for the children's. All right. Yeah, she's got something written on her door over there. I gotta go check it out here in a second. See what it is. Give them some free advertising. Hanging up the swimsuit in the back of my truck to dry out. Getting out the other stuff. Hanging out the towel to dry out. Hopefully by Friday it'll be dry. I don't think there's any more rain in the forecast. My pickup truck bed is covered, but in fact, that's a small part of the problem is that because it's covered, it doesn't dry as fast, but I got to cover it or else people will steal stuff out of it. My Xterra that Kai's driving now has the rooftop box, and that thing was fantastic. Because 99% of the time, what it has is the top of it's covered and the bottom of it's vented. So as you're driving around, everything's air drying in it. It's protected from the sun because it's covered on top. It's on top of the vehicle, so no one ever messes with it. You don't keep expensive stuff in there, but your swimsuit and stuff. And then a couple days later, it's all nice and dry. Okay. So we're going to wrap up the show because I want to get this one out because we got another cool show coming up. I'm so excited. We have an interview with a Cape Epic female pro, considered the world's best and hardest mountain bike race. Stage race, 7 days. Day one is a time trial in South Africa. It's a really big deal. Really excited to have her on the show. And also, before I forget, if you want coaching, reach out to Texifornia, like Texas, California, Texifornia at gmail.com, and we get you set up. $200 a month, full coaching with nutrition. It's through Training Peaks. But honestly, the most important thing that's not considered is I have been doing this for close to 20 years. I think on 20 years. And the other thing I coach is how to get it done, how to fit it all in. Oh my gosh, they're having a mermaid show. mysticmermaid.net. Oh my gosh. mysticmermaid.net. That is cool. Okay. Let's load up. Go to the pool. Or go to work. Whatever. I'll go somewhere. Again, it's $199 a month. And yeah, custom built plans. And we talk constantly and try to fit in the workouts as needed. And I teach you how to do it and not overdo it so that you can keep building volume and get better and better and better. And volume easy, which actually I'm going to talk a little bit about right now. Okay, so again, Texifornia at gmail.com. If you want to support the show, there's Patreon at ZenTry, patreon.com/ZenTry. And you can also support the show and be on the show or whatever as a sponsor or advertise, all that stuff. Okay, done. Now, yesterday's bike ride at lunch was really interesting in that I slowed it down and made sure I was working the slow twitch muscles by not overdoing the torque. People, when they do low RPM, they overdo the torque. They think they gotta go faster or something like that. And it's not true. And that's the upside of having power meters and such, is you can see how much work you're actually doing. But anyway, taking a load off the body mentally, taking a load off the mind and the nervous system, and doing slower turnover. And if you have the right bike set up, then most people do, on Zwift and other indoor trainer programs, it'll show you your cadence. On your bike computer, it'll show your cadence, although you don't want to be looking down too much out on the open road. But it'll show, it showed I was doing like 72, 74 RPM, right? And when you do a lower RPM, the other thing it does is it presents to you more time to be working against a resistance. So you're going a little bit slower, so you're working the slow twitch. You're working a little bit more fully, so you're working the depth of the muscle. And then you're spending more time because there's more available resistance because you're going slower doing work. So it's a very time efficient and at the same time therapeutically relaxing way to train. And the reason it spends more time is, let's say you're doing high cadence, like say 85 RPM. If you looked at the amount the percentage of your rotation that was actually pushing on the pedals, it's less than if you were doing higher RPM or lower RPM. Because you're trying frantically to spin, so there's bigger gaps between the push down and the moving forward. So anyway, after my lunch ride, the rest of the day at work, I'm just chill, feeling pretty relaxed. It's really nice. And I have this interesting thing where if I work out at lunch, I don't feel the need to rush home and work out, and I stay later at work. And people are like, what are you doing here? I'm like, oh man, I got the most important things done in a way. And this morning got up, felt a little sleepy. I think I got to bed a little late last night. And the cool thing about having rituals is I know that if I start the ritual of going to swim, that it just happens. And that's nice. That's something definitely to practice. Just start the ritual. Next thing you know, you're in the car on the way to the pool, you know? And I decided on my swim, you know, I could tell that I wasn't dragging ass or anything like that. It wasn't terrible, but I was just kind of like, you know, I think I'm in this a week or two of where I just want to recover and relax and go easy and work on this. So we're going to be talking about this a while. And so I swam easy, and I actually was kind of brain dead. It was funny. I was like, what was I listening to? Where did I learn this thing about just working on form and then going easier and just being relaxed? And I could not remember for like a couple hundred yards. I was like, what? And I'm like, I've learned this. This is a really cool trick. If you can't remember something, let it go right now, and then it'll pop up in your mind a few minutes later, right? Don't struggle with it. It really does work. And in conversation, I say, I can't remember right now. I'll remember in a couple minutes. And then that's all you say. And it'll come to me in a couple of minutes. And people go, okay. Anyway, a few minutes later, I was like, oh yeah, the podcast with Peter Attia and Olav Alexander Boo. And I was like, oh yeah, easy form, right? And relaxed. Not easy form. Good form, actually. Just relax. Just be relaxed and then work on form, right? And there's more to it than that, though. This is the Brett part, Coach Brett part, is when you do easy, relaxed, and just kind of work on your form, this is the perfect opportunity to do up the resistance, do lower cadence, up the resistance a little bit, so that it's working your muscles in depth. And then by the end of your workout, it has become a really good workout. And it seems like it's the exact opposite of fight or flight. You get out of the pool, off the bike. Running's a little bit different one to do low cadence. You'd have to do uphills and just trudge, I guess. Which is a thing. That's possible. You can do that on a treadmill, or if you live where it's hilly, find a local hill and just slow your cadence down and then trudge up the hill. You know, let's say a 3% grade, 4% grade, just run up the hill. That's the problem, is people try to go as fast. They try to push. They try to do higher torque. The problem is people try to do higher torque, right? So they push harder and keep up the same RPM that they used to do. That's not it. You do higher torque, but lower the RPM, and it kind of works itself out evenly. Do not try to keep up the same RPM, or else you'll wear yourself out. Play around with it and you'll realize what I'm talking about. And on the bike, you can definitely tell with a power meter, because you'll do low torque, but your power will go way up, and you're like, what's going on? And it's, well, you're pushing harder, but you're not slowing your cadence down enough. And then the net effect is, 50 more watts than what you're used to doing on an easier ride. And then that's counterproductive. You're going to wear yourself out. But anyway, I can totally tell that I'm experiencing kind of like this Xanax, however you say the word, Xanax, kind of chill, relaxed, post-meditative state, post-yoga kind of relaxation. So it really does seem to work. Because for long distance stuff, the trick is to get in the volume. And you don't want to do like low cadence, low RPM, high torque, whatever all the time, and all this relaxed stuff all the time. You need to train all systems. But to get in the amount of volume, it does have to be low stress, because your body just experienced too much work, quote unquote. All it knows is that it's just overworked from all kinds of things. Like if you got busy meetings and stuff, or a stressful event, and then you're just tired afterwards, you drive a long day, you didn't do any exercising at all, like your body just gets stressed and it gets tired, and then you don't feel like getting up to do the workout anymore. I think if you went slow and easy but didn't push hard enough with the torque, then you start getting stressed that your workouts are a waste of time, right? Part of the wonderfulness of it all is that you feel like you're actually accomplishing something. Oh, this is what I wanted to wrap the show up with. I was listening to The One You Feed, and they have an interview with a nutrition and a nutrition specialist and a psychologist and all this stuff. He's a real deal. He's an academic, teaches at Brown University. Anyway, he was talking about weight loss and people's addiction to food, and he said that willpower, they were agreeing, he and the host, willpower is it's a mistaken concept that people attribute to willpower, whether or not you can resist eating stuff. And he said, and then they guilt people out for not having the willpower, like somebody's better than somebody else for having the willpower to resist food. And this is fascinating. He said, the professor, the doctor, said willpower, it turns out, because they've done tons of research on this, turns out willpower has nothing to do with it, so much nothing to do with it that it's not even in the equation of successful weight loss. How about that? That is crazy. And I kind of knew it when he started talking about it. I was like, oh yeah, this is all true. What's actually happening instead is you've trained your mind to believe in one result is better than another, is more valuable, right? One reward is actually what they say. So the people that are able to start eating healthier and lose weight, or any kind of good habit, they've associated a reward that they found a reward that is better in their mind and more important to them than the reward of eating the bad food. And so when they're about to eat the bad food, they go, oh, this is going to ruin the other reward that I'm actually going for. And they said that's the trick, is you train yourself to associate the good reward with the bad reward. And a classic example is when somebody has a loved one, or sees lung cancer and loved one die of cancer, and it's traumatic and it's terrible, or they have a baby and they realize that they don't want, that's why I sold my motorcycle, is I'm like, I can't be a guy riding a motorcycle and have a toddler, a baby, because if I get killed, then he's fatherless. And all of a sudden those two things conflicted, and wanting my child to not have a missing dad because of a motorcycle accident, a preventable thing, was more important than me riding the motorcycle, and it got me off my ass to sell my motorcycle. And if you associate, they said you got to spend time associating the reward and thinking about the reward of eating healthy and how that makes you feel, and really like burn that into your brain more so than, and then think about, when you eat like crappy foods, does it really make you feel good? It doesn't really. It's not really worth it, right? And then when you finally do enough of that training, then it doesn't take any willpower. You're just like, you're actually pulled. You're not having the push. You're actually pulled towards the better reward than the bad reward. See what I'm saying? Isn't that cool? Anyway, that's on The One You Feed. And yeah, it's about willpower and losing weight, I think, is somewhere in the title. All right, I'm going to go into W to the ERK. It's been fun hanging out with everybody. Hope you enjoyed the interview with Chase. We got another interview coming up. Thank you for listening to Zen and the Art of Endurance. Everybody stay safe out there. Work the uphills, cruise the downhills, and keep the rubber side down. Out.